Welcome to the second installment of the Susie B Magazine Summer Interview Series. I'm here with Lesley Stahl of 60 Minutes, and let's jump right into these questions.
Okay, can't wait.
Very excited. What led you to journalism, and what has been the most satisfying part of this as your career?
Well, I'll be really honest and say I didn't find my passion, the thing I wanted to do, until I was almost 30.
Okay.
So I kind of floated from one thing to another, like so many people. And the way I found it was I was working for the mayor of New York, and I wandered into the press room one day and said to one of the reporters, just tell me what you do all day long, from the beginning, every single step. And when he finished, I knew. So I had to basically quit my job. I didn't quit my job till I found a job, but I looked for a job in journalism. And I went to work for the NBC News election unit. And I didn't care if it was television. It's just that the New York Times didn't hire me. So it was television, and it was they hired me for the '68 presidential campaign.
Wow. You've extensively covered Washington through multiple administrations. Where do you think we are right now in our nation's political history, and where are we headed? This is a very interesting time, especially with Michelle Bachmann and all this excitement.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned in covering politics, which was my first love, is that at this early stage in a presidential cycle, it is absolutely insane to say that you know it's going to happen. Because whatever seems obvious at this early point is absolutely not going to happen. Also about Michelle Bachmann, I was just talking about her at lunch today. She is the topic du jour.
Of course.
And the whole issue was whether she could really get the nomination. And I can remember back in 1980, I never thought Ronald Reagan was going to get the nomination.
Really?
In a million years. Yeah. He was an actor. Yeah, he was the governor of California. He was an actor. It just seemed, and also very, very, very conservative, more conservative than any of the candidates had been in my lifetime who had gotten the nomination. So, well, not more than Barry Goldwater. Actually, Barry Goldwater proved that those conservatives couldn't win. So the Republicans wouldn't nominate him, and then they did, and he won. So I've learned that it's folly to tell anybody that this is what I think is going to happen at this point.
How do you get your news? Like, do you...
You mean 60 Minutes?
I mean, in the morning, throughout the day. Like, do you... is it digital? Like, do you do digital news? Do you think that there's really a changing way that people are getting their news now that you can see happening on a more consistent basis with your fellow reporters and journalists?
Absolutely. We are in the midst of a revolutionary change, not only in how we ingest news, but also how we communicate our news. It's so different. Within my lifetime, it's gone from point A to point X. I still read the newspaper, though, and I actually so fear, and I mean really fear, the death of newspapers. I'm addicted to them. I wake up and I read 3 every morning, and I'm bereft if I don't have each one of them. And I like the paper. Although, when I travel, I read them on my Kindle, and I like my Kindle too. But you know, the news is coming at you all the time in various forms, and you do have to keep up. Just do.
Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a Facebook? Do you have all these new ways that people are exchanging information?
Well, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
Okay. I did a piece on Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook early. I've actually done 2 pieces on him. The first piece, it was really when it was just really beginning to take off with older people. It was already hugely popular with young people and college kids and so forth, but this was at the beginning of their real outreach to older people. 60 Minutes was perfect for them. My audience was exactly the group they were trying to reach, so there was a lot of cooperation. And as part of the story, Mark himself set up my Facebook page. And it was done on television. And almost immediately turned into a porn site.
What?
It did. It turned into a porn site. It was just the most vile stuff you can imagine. And I shut it down, of course.
Of course.
And it wasn't that easy to shut down either, but it got shut down. And when I did my second piece on him, he said he would set up a new page for me and guarantee that I could have complete control of it and so forth and so on. But I declined. So I do not have a Facebook page myself, and I don't Twitter either. But I was thinking, I was going to ask you advice, that I might look into Twittering this summer and see what I think about it.
Yeah, well, we have our Susie B Magazine Twitter, and we have people following us, and we're following people. I do think it's a great way to keep in constant contact from a business perspective. You make great business connections, and you're always constantly reminding people who you are, how they know you, what your connections are in terms of content, and you form good relationships virtually. But that being said, on a personal level, I just don't have that much to say.
Yeah.
So I don't have, I would just tweet about, like, I'm eating a sandwich right now, my Twitters would not be that.
See, why do I want to know that?
But yeah, exactly.
Thinking of what I'd send out. Why do I want to? But I'm going to try it.
No, I think you would absolutely be great to have a Twitter. I would love to read your tweets. See, that's what I want. I want to be able to read tweets, but not have an account. I'm kind of trying to.
Can you do that?
I don't know. Can you do that? Our tweets telling us we can.
I have a lesson.
Yeah, well, if you set up an account, we'll follow you, and you can follow us. It'll be perfect.
Deal.
We've got a dog who's loving her chew toy right now. She's going to town. On the question of interviewing, actually, what was the best interview you've ever had? Who was it with? And what was the most daring interview you've ever done? And why did it feel so intense?
That is such a hard question. I have lost count of the number of interviews that I've done between Face the Nation, which I did for 8 years every Sunday, and now 60 Minutes. I just finished my 20th year.
Yeah.
So I can't answer your question. But I'll answer it without saying that these were my absolute favorite. I interviewed Margaret Thatcher on Face the Nation, and she was brilliant. And I had my line of questioning that she kept trying to wiggle away from, and I kept asking it over and over and over until she snapped and basically told me off on the air really badly. It was all about Reagan and Iran-Contra and a scandal that Reagan had found himself in.
Mm-hmm.
And she had come to the United States at that point to sort of support him. And I was trying to inform the public that the president had lied to her, and didn't she feel that he had betrayed her, that kind of thing. And she finally snapped and said, "Why do I love your country more than you do?" That's what she said to me. And I was in my corner, and I don't know if it was daring, but it was a little frightening being stuck back in there in the corner.
Where were you, personally and professionally, when you were 22, and what advice would like to give to your younger self and to women at their early 20s that you wish somebody had told you back then?
Well, first, I don't think you make any mistakes, because everything you do feeds into the river and helps, everything. The mistakes are the most helpful, of course, which is hard to believe when you're making them. But when I was 22, I was in graduate school, because I knew for sure that I was going to be a doctor, and I knew it. So there I was in graduate school, because I hadn't taken enough science in college. Mm-hmm. And a year and a half into it, so by the time I was 23, I realized I hated it. I hated science, so the courses I was taking. And if I couldn't get through comparative anatomy without touching anything with my bare hands, I wasn't going to be a doctor, so I had to quit. And so when I was 22, I was on the wrong path for me. And there were several more wrong paths. But as I say, every path contributed to me, and it advanced my knowledge. And so I don't look back and say, what should I have done differently? Because I like where it came out.